Hi guys, I hope that you're all well and that you're coping in what are clearly unpredictable times. Today I thought I might do something different, so it'll just be me for this video. We've had a few requests regarding sibling loss and how one copes with that kind of bereavement, obviously it being such a close and traumatic thing. So I thought I might just take the time to outline how I dealt with that, how I am continuing to deal with it, and I don't know, maybe offer some advice or just talk really, just talk about what I went through. So apologies if I ramble. First of all, this is unscripted. So Charlotte was ill for about 3 years, and for a lot of that time she was very stable. When she had anaplastic astrocytoma, it was almost being managed like a chronic condition. When she got glioblastoma, which is what she died of, everything changed. It wasn't like, I suppose, her death wasn't instantaneous at all, as you've seen from her videos, I imagine. If you haven't, look at them, they're incredibly powerful. She was stripped of most of her sensory ability. She couldn't talk, her eyesight was affected, she was very severely paralysed. She put on a lot of weight due to the steroids that she was taking. So it was a long process, and it was a deeply torturous one to see someone who was once, 6 months before, even with cancer, so vibrant and active and wishing to spread awareness of her condition, just to end up in such a sorry state. So I think that's the first important thing to say, is that it wasn't like perhaps a horrible accident where it was very instant and we had to cope with that. We were coping with the reality, I think, that we all knew that this wasn't looking good for a while. So it was slightly different in that sense, I suppose. When Charlotte went into a coma, she was in a coma for about a month. Including over her 19th birthday. She died just shortly after that. I only saw her a few times in the hospital. I think it was actually only once I saw her in the hospital in a comatose state. And I was fortunate in that regard, because I got to say my goodbyes, and I'm not going to go into that because that's very personal. And I got to say goodbye, and I had the time to say goodbye, even though she was in a coma. I think I'm quite lucky in that regard, because it wasn't like a horrible accident where that person leaves the house and you never see them again, which tragically does happen often to people. And that was the last time I saw Charlotte. I didn't go back to the hospital. Mum and I had gone out over to Eastbourne, which is a bit further down the coast, to go to an art gallery. They had a lot of artwork there that I was quite interested in. I volunteered there for a time before that. And then we'd gone up to Beachy Head, which is a beauty spot on the South Downs. Look it up, Beachy Head, Sussex. It's a beautiful place. And it was the day after that I was with Dad, and we got the call that something was really not right. Obviously Charlotte had been in this coma, but something bad, was happening, and it wasn't looking good, I suppose. So I was dropped back off at home, where I sat very nervously, very tense, obviously, and I sat in the living room here for a while, just in kind of silence, thinking about things. And then I got the phone call from Mum, who said that Charlotte had passed. And it was strange. It was really strange. It wasn't like a, oh God, this has happened. It was almost like someone had just kicked you in the stomach several times, and you were kind of lying there thinking about not only how much it hurt, but kind of why it happened as well. It was fairly awful. So Mum came back, and while I was waiting for them to come back, I found a bottle of whiskey in the cupboard, and I had quite a bit of that, and I sat in Charlotte's armchair, and I just thought, I just thought to myself about what happened, Mum came back and she had the teddy that I had lent Charlotte, Marmalade was his name, and she had Marmalade when she was ill and she had Marmalade when she was in the coma. And to see that teddy bear come back without Charlotte was an image that's pretty stuck in my mind. It was fairly grim. And yeah, you know, that evening was as expected. It was fairly awful. Now, after a few weeks passes, I suppose, one gets accustomed to the absence. The absence is never going to be filled, but you get used to it. And I don't mean you get over it. I mean you get used to it, and you learn to get up in the morning. You learn to get on with the small things in life that I suppose make a semblance of a routine. I had been due to start university again, my undergraduate degree, about a year before Charlotte died. Then, sorry, no, I was supposed to restart my undergraduate degree because I took a year break. About a month before Charlotte died, 2 months, a month before Charlotte died. So that meant after she passed, I took another year out because I was in no way to get back into studying or anything else. Yeah. Having taken the year out, most of my friends were in their final year. Having now taken this additional year out, I was going back to my university on my own with no friends, which was hard. And during that year out that I had, the second year out after Charlotte passed, you know, I worked a series of jobs and I got reasonably back to normal, I think. I was very lucky that I had a long-term goal, and I always wanted to go to Oxford or Cambridge. So I planned that, you know, I would continue working really hard at uni. When I went back to university, I lived in a hotel 4 nights a week on my own. Don't recommend it. Hotels are a novelty. It was a very nice hotel, and we got a very nice rate, and there were lovely people there, lovely staff. But it grates on you living in a hotel. It really compounds the loneliness, especially the loneliness having lost a sibling. And when I went back on the weekends, you know, that loneliness was compounded by that absence, I suppose. So I was fortunate that I had this goal. I had this drive that I wanted to get into Oxford or Cambridge. I hadn't decided where I was going to apply. So when I went back to uni, I just worked. I worked, and I worked, and I worked. And eventually the hotel became a bit too difficult to manage because it was really, you know, it was depressing, it was stressful, and it was isolating. So I opted to commute in from Brighton to Southampton 4 days a week. A 6-hour round trip. Nice. So I did that, and I just kept working, and I kept working, and I kept working, I kept working. And eventually I applied to Cambridge. I got into Cambridge to do my MPhil, which I finished last year. And I always had this goal in mind, and I always had this idea that Charlotte would be so disappointed if I didn't get into one of those places, or I hadn't gone back to university at all because of what had happened. I knew that she would think, you fool, you know, I'm looking down on you, and now because of what's happened you're not pursuing what you want to do. So I had that goal, and I think for me it made things a lot easier having that drive, and I'm very lucky, as I said. Apologies for my rambling. So I guess for me, a huge portion of that loss was channeling it into something positive. And yeah, I overworked myself and I was stressed during that time, but I had a focus that enabled me to kind of to carry Charlotte with me, if you like, you know, a new journey, a new goal, a new thing to look forward to, that Charlotte could, you know, from wherever she is now, I'm not a spiritual person, but from wherever she is now, I do think she's with us, she could kind of help me and guide me with that journey. And the hole that leaves, it never gets easier, of course it doesn't, and you're losing a sibling, especially if you've only got one sibling. It's huge. It leaves a chasm which is just infinite in depth and breadth. There are things that I will never be able to enjoy. There are things that I'll never be an uncle. That stopped for me. On the day that Charlotte died, I will never be an uncle. I'll never be a biological uncle. And you know, that's one of the things that I suppose one has to accept and move on with. You either sink or you swim, and I was never going to sink. And I think that's something that Charlotte taught me, is if you can try your best to do good, and you've got a goal and you want to achieve, I think that's something worth fighting for. And I think when you do lose a sibling or a very close, you have a very close bereavement, I think that person would want you to succeed, and that's really what's pushed me on in a lot of ways. And I suppose it isn't easy, but you don't sink, and it happens. And this is no way judging people that do sink and they can't find a way out of this grief, because it's hard. It's really hard. But I suppose all I can say is I think whoever you lose, that person would want you to live your life to the full, and would want you to succeed, and would want to be proud of you. So gosh, it's a bit of a rant, isn't it? But no, I mean, again, I'm very lucky that Charlotte left us with so much to work for. That in itself is a massive kind of healing thing, an encouraging thing for us. I think that we have you guys. We have a community of people that care so deeply and so genuinely about not only Charlotte's well-being when she was here, but my mum's well-being, my family's well-being, and that's an amazing thing to have. And so fortunate that Charlotte's good work and the charity and everything like that can continue. So no, I don't know. I guess my own coping mechanism would be just to find something that you're passionate about. And it sounds so trite and so kind of obvious, but I think it does help. Not to kind of try not to be consumed by that grief. I suppose find something out there. I mean, there's beauty everywhere. There is. Go for walks. Just try and. I'm saying this from someone who's been in this position. Obviously, I'm not trying to be some kind of pseudo counsellor here. I'm just talking about things that have helped me. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what the purpose of this video is, apart from I thought it would be worthwhile sharing this. And I'm kind of glad I've done it without a script. You're probably not, because you're thinking, God, probably shut up. But no, thanks for listening. And if you guys have questions, put them in the comments. If you've got recommendations for any other videos, let us know. And last but not leastly, again, just thank you guys for being you. Thank you for following Charlotte's journey and wanting to be involved, and thank you for listening to Mum and I. It means a hell of a lot, and it's a great healer. I think I'll leave it there. Take care and be safe. See you soon.